Hello and good afternoon. My name is Leslie and I'll be your instructor in this session. First of all, I want to start by apologizing that we were unable to carry out our live class as we had earlier anticipated. Now, this was due to a lot of technical issues that we had, and hence we needed to make up for that by ensuring that you get a recorded video of what the session should have been like. Uh, Thank you so much for sticking around, and thumbs up to everyone who was there. Now, all right, so this is actually a Microsoft Excel masterclass that was actually meant to focus on analyzing several industry data. And part of the things that I believe we would learn at the end of this class is to have a basic understanding of how to analyze several data sets in irrespective of the industry. The knowledge can be applied and you can use it across several industries. Now we're starting first with laying down some expectations. So first, this is not a beginner's class. So we're not saying that if you're a beginner, you're not going to learn or benefit from this class, but this is not taking you from the very foundational concepts of Microsoft Excel, up to the advanced concept. No, this is not what this class is doing. However, we're very specific on, bringing out insights into from several or now the data set we're going to work with today, but subsequently several data sets. And then secondly, I would like for you to, get back to us if you have any questions or queries or concerns, and we'll try as much as possible to make this learning experience for you as fun as possible. All right, and lastly, I would like you to also go to our YouTube channel and check out other videos and like, share, subscribe. And we would also want to get feedbacks from you, and if the lecture was clear, or at the end of the class, definitely if it's clear, if there are any questions, if there are any concerns, or all of that. All right, so thank you so much for this brief intro, and we're going to begin. So I'm going to take off my my face for a while, and then I'll come back again. Thank you. All right, so this is Microsoft Excel, and currently what I have is an Excel workbook. And today we're going to be working on a data set from data.gov. Now, the data we'll be working with is the MTA NYCT customer engagement statistics, right? Now, this data set provided statistics and performance metrics. So it was actually about the volume, and it was actually an engagement that happened and in New York, right? So for a transit, subway, and bus customer survey, sort of. So it was an engagement that happened in New York for the New York City Transit, subway, and buses, right? So it's a customer engagement and customer service statistics and survey, and this happened between May 2017 to May 2022. So we will be able to see from the data set the metadata and other areas of the data, should I say the dynamic points or the dimensions of the data, as we would see by the time we begin to look at this data set. It's going to give us a better understanding. So I can quickly go here and download this data set, but I'm not going to use the downloaded version. So I'm quickly downloading it so we can at least view it, right? Which you do not necessarily have to do, right? You do not necessarily have to download this data set. So from the records here, we have about 23 columns, and we have about count of about 60, so 61 rows minus the header, right? and we can see that it contains information regarding the time period, right? And then the agency and several dimensions, for the engagement of this data. All right, so I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not going to work with the downloaded version, but I just wanted us to have a view of what the data set looks like. So on this particular site, which is catalog.data.gov /datasets, I'm going to paste the site on the link below so you can have access to it and work alongside. Right, so whilst we're here, I'll come to the landing page where I'm going to visit. And just like I said, you did not necessarily have to download the data set, right? So we have about 733 views and about 422 downloads. Well, that's a lot. So this several attachments. We have the data dictionary. We have an overview of the data sets. That is, if you want to see it, and then so what the data set entails, as well as the data dictionary. So this gives us information about the metadata in the data, the different column headers, the types, right, and what they actually stand for. I would leave this at this point, and then what I want to do is come to actions, right? And I'm going to say API, which is the application programming interface, right? And of course, currently I'm not downloading the file, but rather I'm going to use the API endpoint, and I'm going to change the format to a CSV file, and I'll copy this link. Right, once I copy the link, I'll come to my Microsoft Excel workbook. Meanwhile, this is a blank workbook that I just opened, right? So I'll come to my Microsoft Excel workbook. Okay, let me bring. Yeah, so from my Microsoft Excel workbook, I'll come to the. So I'll come to the data tab here. Yeah, from my data tab, I'll get the data. So what this allows me to do is it allows me connect to an already existing data source. And we can see here that Microsoft Excel has a couple of data sources. And if you have used tools like, say, Microsoft Power BI, you should be familiar with, or maybe Tableau, you should be familiar with these concepts. Not a lot of people use these options, maybe, but of course, these days, if you're using Microsoft Excel, you can connect to different data sources. And now from file, we're not taking the data from file. This would have been an option if we are connecting directly to the data set that we just downloaded, but we're not going to connect to the Microsoft workbook, Excel workbook that we just downloaded, but rather we're taking from other sources, right? So from other sources, we're going straight to the web. Now we're going to, so what this does is it's going to establish a connection between the data on the web and also Microsoft Excel, and then allow you import the data into Microsoft Excel. This way, it is real time, and if a refresh happens, you're seeing the changes. So there are cases or occasions where you use this method. So for instance, you're looking at stocks, you want to monitor the stocks, or you want to create say visualizations around the stocks, things like that. Then you can use this method of connecting the data set to the web. So once I paste in my URL here, I'll click OK. I don't need to do any other thing. I don't need to choose advanced. It's just fine for me that way. Now you see, this gives an overview of the entire data set based on the first 200 rows, right? As you can see, it's a CSV file, so of course that's why you have the delimiter as a comma. And then I think there were about 23 rows or 23 columns or so. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to transform this data. All right, so I'm going to transform this data set. Now, once I transform this data set, it takes me into another part of, you can say, Microsoft Excel. This is not Microsoft Excel actually, but it takes me into a different interface entirely. Now, a different interface called Power Query Editor. Now, the Power Query Editor is an add-in that is present both in Excel and also in Microsoft Power BI, and it takes me to this point, where I can carry out my data transformations. I'll ensure, so things like different transformations, that ensures that my data is, normalized and has some great standard for use in analysis. I can carry out some of these things over here in the Power Query Editor. So how I remember it is that it is the kitchen of either Power BI or Microsoft Excel. So in this case now, what we're doing is we're going to be working with the different columns, or we're going to work on a column basis, right? So, and then you're not working on in a cell basis as you would in native Excel, for instance. And in here I have the home tab, transform, add column tab, as well as the view tab. So if you can see this particular ribbon, it looks somewhat similar, well, not entirely, of course, to say Microsoft Excel. Now, the reason why I'm saying so is because, of course, it's a Microsoft product, so in terms of you would expect that some of the things would appear almost same way. So you have like the home tab, you have a transform tab. In this case, you have an add column, you have view tab. So these are the tabs, while these are the groups. These are the groups, these are the groups, these are the groups, and then the groups, and then you have the individual contents, within the group that allows you to interact with the data in your table. All right, so great. Click OK. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'll come to my home tab, and then, but before I do that, I would like to have a quick look at my data set. Now, before looking in here, I would like to get to, remember, we downloaded the data dictionary. So let us just take a quick peek into what the data dictionary does for us, or shows us. It shows us the month, it shows us the month of the year, it shows us the year, it shows us the agency. So this is the agency, MTA agency. Then it shows the total incoming calls, so this is the total incoming calls to our customer contact center period of time. So the calls that came in, right? It's good you understand your data before you begin working on it. This showed how many was actually answered. So it's possible that a lot of people would try to bring out some calls, will try to put a call across, but not all the calls may be answered, right? Then you have the answered rates, and then you have the total wait time, you have the average time it takes to answer, and then you have the help point activation. So this help point activations shows you the total number of times a help point kiosk was activated per period, as well as the total wait time. This is actually shown in minutes across all help points activations or help point calls, right, during the time period before the calls were answered, right? And then we have the help point average time to answer, which is the average time per help point call per period, per time period in seconds, right? And then we have the social media mentions. So this is the total number of mentions received across our relevant social media channels per period time, right? So you have all of this and all of this up until where you have the alerts and service notices, right? So this gives you the total number of alerts and services notices posted on paper signs within the transit system per time period. So this is all that you have, in the data, and it's good that you have a broad understanding of what it's all about. Okay, as well as the you have the general description. So this general description, so I'm just quickly going to read this part. It says the Metropolitan Transportation Authority is a public benefit corporation responsible for public transportation in the state of New York, serving 12 countries in southeastern New York, along with 2 countries in southwestern Connecticut under contracts to the Connecticut Department of Transportation, right? So this Metropolitan Transportation Authority data, I believe, was gotten when due to the engagement, of course, because there were engagements that were carried out, between the company and its customers, right? So this particular data was generated. So in other words, what it's trying to tell us is there was a business activity or an activity that was carried out. So maybe in our regular businesses, there are activities that, are always carried out and which they serve as the fact of our businesses now. So these facts, they happen on a daily basis that generate several transactions, and by the time this happened, we're able to capture data. So this entire activity serves as an opportunity to capture data now. So we, through these activities, we have captured the data set that we'll be working with, right? So I'll go back into my Microsoft, into Power Query Editor, and I'm going to look at these data sets. Now I have the month of year, I have the year, agency. So let's see, it's just one agency, right? So you don't have multiple agencies, as it were. So what I can do here in this case is there are 2 things. You can either create a date table directly from here, or you can create a date table when you get into Power Pivot, which is another add-in in Excel, right? So for me, I would prefer I do it in the data model, right? That's in Power Pivot. So I can just quickly look through, column by column to ensure that everything, looks perfect or okay. Column quality. Now, what I want to do here is, by the time I activate column quality in my Microsoft Power BI, I'm able to tell if the quality of each column is at 100%, right? So for those of us that may not have this, don't worry. You just follow through the steps that I would do if I'm trying to work on any particular column. So I have a column here whose valid point is about 89%, and if we use our filter button, we'll be able to tell that there is a null value here. So what I can do here is, because this is a decimal number and it's a social media customer, so if I go, say, to my data dictionary and I see where I have social media customers, social media customer, so this is social media customer, right? So if I go to my data dictionary here, I'm going to look for where I have social media customer. Okay, so I believe this should be it. So it says the average social media customer satisfaction score per time period. Let me confirm again. And it was actually from, so the highest is 4.2, and it's actually on a 5-point scale, right? So if the high has been 4.2, it means that it's actually falls. It is this particular, column that we're looking at, right? Yeah. So that's the particular column we're working on. So what I can do here is come back here. So it's on a 5-point scale. So what I'll do here is I'm going to replace all the null values here with, say, 0. Now once I do that, you see that this valid point here changes to 100%. Alright, so I can go ahead and check for the remaining things. I have another here and another one here. So if I check for two of them, it shows null and null. So what I'll do is I'll just highlight both of them and right click and replace value. So replace the null values with a 0. Now these are numbers, right? So I'll just replace it with 0. I think I'm good to go. Now, like I said, I do not want to create the date directly from here. So what I'm going to do is I do not need these columns, both of this, because I'm going to I can get the month of the year from here. I can get this month rather from this date, so I don't need this anymore. So I'll just take both of this away, and I'll call this date. So I'll rename this column as date. Now, part of the things you have to know is that Power Query uses the M language or M code. So for everything that we do, it is recorded here in the applied steps, and you can always see the codes. Once you get into your advanced editor, you'll see everything that you do. So this is the first thing that happened, where we connected to the data source. It promoted the headers, it changed the type, it replaced the value, and the rest of them. So we can see all of that. Now let us load this data. So we're going to close and load to. Now we're loading this into our data model. So what we're going to do is, we don't want to repeat the data as a table here in Excel, but we want to only create a connection to the data source, and then we add this to our data model. Now, so we'll hold on for it to add to our data model. Now, once this is done, so I'm going to take my face a little away. Okay, so once this is done, I can see, to the right part of my screen that I have queries and connections. Now, so this shows me my queries. If I hover around this option, at this point, it brings out this dialog, box, or this little drop down that gives me the ability to see, at least I can cite the data sets on may not be the entire rules, but I have an understanding or an overview of what the data set looks like. And then in here, it shows us the total number of columns, if there are any refreshes, the status, if it's loaded to the data model, and then the data source settings. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on my manage data model. So once I click on it, it's going to take me into what we call the Power Pivot. Now in here, in my Power Pivot, if you have worked with Access before, this reminds us so much of it, but Well, that's just by the side. So let's look at the data at this point. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come to the diagram view. Now, so when I get into the diagram view, I'm able to see like all the columns in my data set, right? So this is fine. I'll go back to the data view and then I'll come to design. I'll click on date table and I'll click on new. So I'm going to create a date table, right? And it's great that you understand why you need to create a date table, right? So just all right, so my date table has been created, right? My date table has been created, and if you observe, so what it did was it had to take the range, for instance, of, so you have the years, from 2017 down to 2022, right, in the data set. So if I go back to the data set, I can see that it has okay, from this I'll be able to tell that it starts from 2017 and ends on or in 2022, right? So I'll just cancel this. All right, so let us try this one more time and come to the calendar. So if we come back to the calendar, you'll see I have a year column here, I have a month number, I have a month name, right? So I have a month name and I have a concatenation of the month and the year. I have the month, day of the week, I have the day of the week, the name, right? So why was it important that we created this date table? Now, it's important for us to be able to carry out time-based or time series analysis because this will enable us to have an overview of the data over a period of time, and this way we're able to spot trends and patterns. Also, it allows us to filter our data set by specific dates. So say I want to filter my data by, say, the year, by month, by quarter, as the case may be, and then it allows us to carry out some aggregations, right? So basically there are lots of advantages why we create a date table, but part of the things that would stand out for us is because of the kind of should I say calculations that we would want to carry out in this particular project. Okay, so if I go down here, I can simply rename this to rename this to data set, while I have another table here. So this table was created by a query. Okay, so we may not be able to do this here except we go into Power Query to do this. So I'll just rename this to data set. Yeah, and I'm done with that. So rename. Alright, so what is going to happen here is I'm going to go back in here, close and load, and I think it should carry out some refresh, and then I'll go back to my power pivots now, right? So it is trying to refresh, and then once the refresh is done, you can see in here I have calendar and I have data set. Alright, so this is what we're gonna do I'm going to come to my data set, and if I come down to my home tab and come to the diagram view, I'm going to build a relationship between the calendar table and the dataset table. So if I simply click on this date and connect it to the date on the calendar table, it creates a relationship for me. Now I may want to see more about more in as to the relationship it has created. For me, I'd want to see more information about it. If I double click on that little this little line here, it opens up this particular table for me, or should I say the dialog for me. Now I'm in here, I'm able to see the point at which it connects, the point at which both tables connect. So I can see that the data set table at the date point connects to the calendar table at this point as well, and the relationship is an active one. Now once that is done, then I may need to go back to my date table, or that's the calendar table. I have the year quite alright. I have the month, I have the day. Now one of the things that I'll need to do is, if I get to the say month, I would want to ensure that this month column is sorted by the month number. So meaning I'm sorting this month column by the month number, and I am also sorting this day of the week column by the day of the week number. Now, so that would allow us to say, okay, if let's say January, like we know January is the first month of the year, rather than having it arranging it as April being the first, because it tries to tell if it's alphabetical or earliest as the case may be, and it brings A before every other alphabet. So instead of having to get confused in that manner, it just tells you, and it knows that January is the first, so it just arranges it in that order for you, right? So what we may want to do here is so we may want to create, let's say, a switch function maybe, right? So if we do that, so let's see, if I come in here and say I want to create my a function where I can tell which particular day falls as a day, as a weekday, and which particular day falls as a weekend. Now this way I'll be able to further carry out my analysis to know when I have a weekday and when I have a weekend, right? So that way it makes things easy for me. Basically it makes things easy, and then I'm able to group my data based on those categories, right? So now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to create what we call a calculated column. Now a calculated column is a column that is created using DAX, right? So of course you are creating that column using functions or several functions, right? So I may want to know when. So if I can use the if function, but I can equally use the switch function here. Let me get in here and say I can use the if function. So let me get in here and I'll say if, so the name of my column will be either the weekend or weekday status. Weekday status, and is going to be, so I can use the if function. So I'll use an if. Now if, so the logical test would be that if the day of the week number is either a 7 or a 1, then it's a weekend, otherwise it's a weekday. So if day of the week number is equal to 7. So let me try something that we might want to use in Power BI, but well, so let's do this. So if day of the week number is equal to 7, or let's use an here. So if an, so if an logical is equal to 7, and then we say day of the week again, equal to 1, then what's that? It's actually a weekend. Otherwise it's a weekday. Right, so if I do this, okay, so it says, alright, so I needed to put this in inverted comma and try again. Alright, so let's confirm. So Saturday, it's a weekday. Okay, let's look at our function again. So it says this weekend and this weekday. So if we look at this, it only says weekday. So let's come in here again and see what the error is. So this is my logical 1 and logical 2, and value if true and value if false. Alright, so if we're having difficulties with this, we can use a function called switch. So when it evaluates to true, we can say and if day of the week, so number is equal to 1, day of the week number equal to 7, comma, the result should be week end, and then when it's not, then it's a weekday. Yeah, weekday. So this is week. So this is still weekday. All right. So okay. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Let's try and let's do this here. So if this, we're not sure why it's not changing at this point, but let us use the. So we can say, because if you look in here, you see that we are using the weekday function. Okay, so let us use that here. So if this. So weekday, this calendar, so instead of this we have the dates, is equal to 1, right? This is for weekday. And next again, the weekday of the calendar dates is 7. Then that would be the second logical test, the value. So this is my result, and then the else result. So let's look at this. So it changes everything to a weekend. Okay, so this is 7 and this is weekend. Alright, so this is peculiar, but we'll try to figure out what maybe what I'm not doing right. So let's see. Let's use the conventional if, which is so ifs. So if day of the week number is equal to 1, comma, we call that week. So we call that weekday, right? Weekday, weekend rather. And if day of the week again is equal to 7, we equally call that weekend. And otherwise we call that weekday. So let's see if this takes care of our issues, right? Alright, so whatever works for you, I think this is the conventional ifs, nested ifs rather. This worked for us. So when it's a Saturday, it's a weekend, and when it's a Sunday, it's a weekend. But then when it's a Thursday, Friday, and any other day is a weekday. Okay, so I'm not sure why that function or those functions didn't work in this instance, but whatever the case, this has worked for us, so we can actually use this for now. So we can equally create, so this is a year column, which is good. We have a month number, we have the month, then we have the day of the week, and then the week or weekend status, right? So we'll be able to tell each week as the case may be. So it's fine. So what we're going to do here is to mark this as our dates table. So it's already done for us, so we don't need to do that anymore. Now if I come back to my data set, now there are a couple of things that I will need to work with or do or carry out while I'm working with data like this. That will bring me to a question to ask that what are measures, right? So what are measures? Because for us to really understand our data, we would need to carry out some some form of should I say quantification or quantifying several items in our data, and what the tool, or should I say the instrument that enables us do that, are what we call measures. So for instance, our measures are with measures, for instance, we would be able to tell the total number of incoming calls that have happened, and then we can use, say, a dimension to slice that information, that you can see it across several dimensions, right? They are oftentimes used measures like I'm saying they are oftentimes used in businesses, for a couple of things. Let's say you want to carry out some form of quantitative calculation, right? So it allows you, have that quantitative calculation, in your work, and then the measures usually they are helpful. They help, they are used to present our data in a very clear, concise manner, so that way you're not confused about, what is what and the rest of them. So without wasting more time, let us just go into what we're going to do here. So we're going to go straight into our measures, and in here we're going to create, so we can either create our measures right here, right? Or we can come to, so if I come to say show implicit measures, for instance, right now it's these implicit measures, so are used when, say, you're carrying out like a pivot table, in Excel and all of that. So, but in this case now, we're not showing it for implicit measures here. So before we go back to our Microsoft Excel, let's just ensure that everything is fine. So we have all our columns intact, and I think everything is great. If we come here, we can just, on this part we can hide this particular date, since we have a date table that gives us that information here. So it's hidden. I'll click on save, and it takes me back to my Excel, right? So I have not saved this particular workbook, so I'll look for a folder and then save this. So I'm saving this in my folder. So let me save this as this is MTANYCT customer engagement. So MTA, yeah. Okay, so I have something similar, there, statistics 2022, and I'll save this. Okay. All right, so that is done. Now, that being said, this is everything we need, and then we would begin our analysis, right? So if I come to where do I go to? Let's go back to our data model. Right, so I'm right here in my data model, and I'm trying to check for something. If I go to my design, we're not adding a new column. Okay, design, no, we're not adding a new column. So table properties, no. Okay, well, it's fine. We'll just we'll just continue what we're doing, right? Okay, so if I go back here where I have my data set, I'm going to try to create my okay, before I do that, let me go back to my Power Query editor. Okay, so if I go back to Power Query editor, I'll just come to this, hover around here and click on edit. And then once I'm here, I'll click on my so I'm trying to hope I remember this. Let's click on properties. No. Okay, just give me a second. So I think we are all good here. Alright, so just give me a second. Let me quickly get over something. I'm trying to confirm everything is fine from here. I'm looking through. I'll go there. So so what I'm going to do here is I will come to my yes, so let me close and load this. So if I come to my data tab, I'll click on get data. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to create a table that will accommodate all our analysis right here. In Power BI it's easy. You can just simply create a new table and call measures or calculations. But in Excel, what you're going to do is you're going to come into your Excel and click on get data, and once you select get data, what you want is you would need to select, say, from other sources, and then you're going to click on a blank query. Right, so once you click on a blank query, it opens up your Power Query editor, right? So I can call this particular query calculations, or measures, as the case may be, right? So if I do that, I'll just click on enter. Now once I do, I can just come in here and type, I think, a number. We can just type 1, for instance, and then once that is done, I come to this option that says convert to table. So, and then I click and convert it to table, and once I do, it's done. So I rename this column as my measures, right? So right here it's renamed as measures. So because once I have created this column that would accommodate all our calculations is done, then I can close and load. Don't forget, because we've added something new, I'm going to add it again to the data model. So it's going to close and load into the data model. Alright, so once that is done, let's go back into our data model and let's check. So we have a table called calculations. Now in here I can carry out all the calculations that I would want to. Alright, now I'm going to carry out my calculations right away first before I begin creating visuals. Okay, so in here I'll start by creating the first set of KPIs, okay, and I call this so I can I'll have different names maybe for it, right? So but based on this particular columns, right, I'm going to create my KPIs, or right. So first of all, I'll call this the total. Let's say this would be our total incoming calls, right? So you would have a total incoming calls that measures the total volume of calls that have come in. So total incoming calls. When creating your measures, you have to use a column and an equal to sign, right? So I'm going to use the sum here, and I can just type incoming, so it brings out the incoming calls from it, and it's done. So it shows me my total incoming calls, and if I click on it, I can expand this. It gives me that number, and then I can format it. So reduce the decimal places, right? So this increases, this reduces twice, okay? So this gives me my total incoming calls, right? So I can have the next column I have is the calls answered. So I can have the total answered calls, right? Total calls answered. So that would be sum of the calls answered. And I'll format this again, and it doesn't have decimals. Then I have a rate here, so I'm not going to use total, but I'm going to use average in this case now. So this would be average, or should we say call answer rate? Call answer rates, you can say average, right? So this is in percent. This would be the average of the call answer rates. Yes, so that way I'm calculating the average of the rates, right? Then we have the next is the average wait time. So we can format this percentage. It's quite high. Okay, so we can have the average wait time, right? So wait time, and this is actually represented in seconds, I'm sure, just like we can see here. Okay, so this is total wait time. However, let's see, let's just put something there so that I don't need to type it again, right? So let me come back to the data set now. So if I come here, I have total wait time. Okay, so I have the total wait time in minutes, and if I need to convert this, well, I can decide to do this as a total, or I can decide to do it as an average. So I can have like the average wait time. So let's have the average. Hold on, let's go back there, sorry. Okay, so the average wait time, no, this is the average time. So we'll have the total time, average time. So this is the average time it takes to answer, and then we have the total wait time. So if we come back here, we can call this total, sorry about how I spelled the average. So this is total wait time. So this will give us the total wait time. But then it's giving us, so I hope I'm not, so what happened here? Here, total wait time. So you see this total wait time, so because it's in minutes and you're looking at it as the total number of minutes, so this is like 100, this is 13 minutes, right? So rather than using this, total wait time, let's see. Okay, and this is from seconds, so this is in minutes. I'm trying to see how, you know, it's makes sense basically, because if you have to say this is in minutes, but then you can't wait. So how, like, are you looking at this minutes across? So we can actually have like a dimension of, say, day, to see the total wait times, you know, in a particular day. So what I mean is, if we say, let's create a pivot chart, for instance. I have my calculation and I have total wait time. So sorry, not the pivot charts. Let's create a pivot table. Let's put it here. Alright, so for the pivot table, so in here, now if I include a slicer of the let's use day of the week, say for Sunday, so this is Sunday alone. Now include another slicer for year, month, declare this, so say 2017 May, for Sunday, let's see one more. If we have that dimension, so that dimension by even the day, like on the first, on the second, just like that. So let's say where is it? Insert slicer, the dates, more fields, so we can have that dates. So this, okay, this gives us the same because it's 1, so 2. Alright, so now this would be the total wait time for Monday, and if you look at it, that's in this month and in this year. So how do you convert minutes, for instance, to hours, right? So if you want to see, because this is showing you in minutes, so there's definitely a translation, to say, okay, this one, this is how much. So hold on, let me come back here, let me just ensure, okay, it's done. So I can say is equal to this divided by 60. So this is going to give me in terms of hours. So this is the number of hours. Mind you, if you're looking at this, because there is no further dimension to say, let's say, because this is just giving you an overview of the month or the day in that month. So it's not telling you for, let's say, a specific customer, for instance, because if, let's say, the dimension even went down to customers, you'll be able to tell on a particular customer how many minutes did this person have as the total wait time to be able to get to a maybe a call center agent or something. You get, so this is why I had to look at that calculation again, so we'll be able to know how to interpret that. All right, so we've been able to do that. Next is what we're going to do. Next is we're going to carry out the average weights or average time. If we say the average time for a call to be answered, so average time to answer, right? So let's use this. So this will be average so time to answer. Yeah, so this is the we have about 221 seconds. So that's for the average time it takes to answer. Then help point activation rate. So that's the ratio of activations per call, right? So let's look at the help point activation rates. Here we would have the what now, this help point activation rate. So let me exit this first. If we come back to the data set, we have the help point activations, right? And then we have the total incoming calls. So for you to determine the ratio of activations per the total calls, you would need to divide the help point activations divided by the total number of calls. So you can either do it directly, that is create a measure to call these total help point activations, or you carry it out, directly in the function. So we can just create a measure anyway here and call it total help point activations, right? Activations, and then this will now be the total, or sum rather, sum of help point activations. Now this gives us the help point activations, right? Now this gives us the help point activations. Then we can have the rates here. So this would be the help points activation rate. That should be so it's going to be the help point activations total so the total help point activations, but mind you, so this would be divide the total help point activation divided by the total incoming calls, right? So we already have the total incoming calls. Right? Now where there is an alternate result, just return 0 for me. So there we're good. Alright, so this is rate. We can change this to percentage. Alright, now then we have the we can have the percentage of the calls that have been answered. So we have calls answered, and then what is the percentage of those calls that are answered in the total incoming calls that have come through to the center. So let us call this percentage calls answered, right? So this would give us so this would be, we would also use the function divide, and this would be total calls answered, right, divided by the total number of total incoming calls, okay, and then 0. Now that should take care of this, so which is quite high, of course, because when you look, you have, if you have a call answer rate of about 84%, the percentage of the calls answered, it makes sense that this should be higher, because the call answer rate is already high in itself, right? So that's what we can do. Let us also look at one more thing. We can say the if we look at the data again, we have the if you look at alerts posted, so how can we get so we have different alerts posted. Now if we come to our data sets, I prefer taking it from here so I can see the data. So if you come here and see, let's go to the next page. We have alerts and service notices. So we have alerts and service notices. So the total number of alerts and service notices posted on the MTA website per time period. So this is the total number of alerts and services posted on Twitter channel per time period. So these are different channels. This is the web, this is Twitter, these are displays, service emails and text alerts, and then elevator, escalator status. So what we can do is to we can replace this the web. So this is alert without a number. Here, so this particular one is web, right? This may not allow us to, okay, so let's see. It does allow us edit. So yeah, it doesn't allow us edit except we go to Power Query Editor. Well, let's quickly go down so that we can note which one is for which. If I come to edit, I come back here. All right, so let me keep my space here. All right, so if I come here to where I have alerts and service notices, so the first one is for the web. The second one is for Twitter. The next one is for displays. The next one is for service email and text alerts, which is 3, which is the fourth one. Then we have elevator, escalator status, email and text alert, which is here, 4, which is the fifth one. And then we have posters. All right, so great. So this is done. We can go in here and close and load. So it's going to try to, refresh the data. Don't worry about this, just close this and let's go back to our data model. So of course you can go from the data tab, go to manage. Power Pivot has finished this action. Okay, so see it's here. Let's go and confirm that. Alright, so it's there now. Now we can get, so what is we can have a, let me take this off. We can have a total engagement, right? So what's the total alerts basically that have been posted? Because if we have several alerts coming from different channels, we would want to know what the total of such alerts would be like. Then we can begin to say, okay, we can know what should be the total for each individual alert notice type, right? So we can call this the total alerts posted. posted. So this will be total alerts posted, and I'm just going to do this. So this would be, we are going to carry out, say, wow. So we can carry out this using some X, say our data sets, and then we have the alerts. Let's use web, comma, alerts, Twitter 2, comma, alerts, so my concern here is we would need to carry out a summation of all the different alert posting, before we're able to carry out the how do I put it, the total now, because I'm trying to think if we use some x iterates on a row basis, but would that give us for all of them? That's what I'm not so sure now, but let's just confirm, because it's already throwing in an error at this point. Now this is our table and these are the expressions. So if I take this off, yeah, let's see, up until this. So let's see, it doesn't work this way, right? So what we can do here is we can carry out the individual alert summation, and then we're able to carry out the total eventually, right? So let's say total web, or let's say web total, web total, so if we're carrying out the web total, sorry, just a minute. So if we're carrying out this, so let's say we can use just give me a second, let me look at this again. I'm just looking at this. So if we have say, let's look at some of alerts. Let's do web. So this should give us for web. Next, let's do the Twitter. This should give us give us for Twitter. We have displays, service emails, so displays total, sum, display. Next is the service email. Service, let's say email. So we have service email. Yeah, let's say service emails. Some. Then next is so we have escalator emails, some, and one more, which is the posters. Okay. All right, so once this is done, we can carry out a total So I'm removing the decimal places. Okay, so we can carry out a total for the alert, right? So total alerts, poster. We're going to carry out, so this will be sum x, no, not sum x. So we don't need to use sum x again. So we'll just say web. So web total plus we have the Twitter plus we have the displays plus we have service email plus we have escalator plus poster. Right, so this gives us the total. Right, so of course there are other ways, right? So for instance, if we were able to say if we had gotten the total, we would have used the function calculate, for instance, to tell, so we can say so let's just call this total, for instance, anything. We calculate, so we can say the sum of so if we're looking at total, so let's say total alerts received command, then we say for the filter, let's say alerts say web, maybe, but this would be the sum of this. Let's see, okay. Okay, so this will not give us that. So I'm trying to look for a scenario here. Okay, don't worry. We don't need to do this. Yeah, I'll do it from the model. All right, so we're done with the total, and let's. So what we're going to do here is, because we've created lots of measures, there are actually a lot of them. We're going to begin visualizing. At least let us even start visualizing. Let us see what these measures can or are going to look like. Don't mind these other ones that I've done. I can just simply go back here to my pivot table, and if I refresh, so just hold on. Alright, so they were actually in there already. I wasn't sure, so that's why I needed to refresh. But okay, so they are all here. So what we're going to do is clear this filter. So I'll bring them much later. Let's see what we can come up with. Okay, so here. What did I do? All right. Okay. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to carry out a grouping in some. So for instance, I have total incoming calls. I would want to have the total answer, the total wait time, average time to answer, call answered rates, percentage of calls answered, total help point activations, help point activation rates. Yes, so I can have all of this, right? So I can have all of this basically. Now all these are going to be used for, I can delete this for now. All this, I'm going to create a card visual for this particular KPIs, right? So I'm going to use a card visual to represent all of this. Now the next is going to be our what is it called now? The next is going to be the representation of this entire data set, in a visual or in a visual where persons can see and know, okay, how can we interpret this particular data? So let me bring up my face. How can we interpret this particular data set, to portray the the message we're trying to pass, right? So that's what we're going to do right now. But we may not be able to exhaust everything in this class, so I'm just going to begin, and then I'm going to stop halfway, and then in our next class we're going to continue. All right, so first I'll take my face down a little before I take it off completely. All right, so what we want to do here is to create a layout of the way we would like to see some of the things that we would want to represent basically. But first of all, I would like to take off okay, I'm not necessarily take that, so I'm going to insert a shape here. Insert a shape. So insert this. So you can, depending on the size of your screen, right? So let me take this out. Alright. So I'm going to insert this shape. Let me take it up to this point. Right here. So down to this, and don't go too far. Let me not go too far. All right, so this is like, my entire screen, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, expand this a little, so it's not very curved as such. Now, once that is done, this is going to form my first background. Now I'm going to duplicate this, right, and reduce this a little. Data, so I'm going to format this shape. I'm just changing the colors for now, right? So don't worry, I'm not, these are not the colors that I'll use eventually. So I just want to be able to, differentiate between the two of them. So it's like, I'm giving, it's helping me, see what I want. Sorry. Alright, so now I have two shapes. I'm going to have a third shape. So insert. I'm going to have a shape that's where is it? So it's going to be like one of these, I think. I actually need this, but okay, can I turn it? Now let me take this. I will change this. So so edit the shape. I want to edit it. So edit the point. I'm going to edit this a little. No, sorry. Let's see. No. So if I come here and I rotate this, yeah. So this is what I want. I want it to look like this. Yeah, so I have another layer here. Don't worry, once we're done, you would have an idea of what our data, our outline will look like, our visualization basically. So let's insert another shape here. Here we're going to use this. So we're going to leave one here. Let's just leave some space here. Yep. So this one should come forward. So it just overlays the other one. So don't worry. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to do all of this, right? Or depending on what you want to see. So let's insert several little shapes here. So let me 2, 3, 4. How many of those do we have? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So we have 8 of them. 2, 3, 4. So we have 4. Can we put the 8 of them here? It will be too. No, it will be too clumped up together. So let's just reduce it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can duplicate this and have them underneath, right? So maybe we reduce this a little. So we have them here. Then we can have another one. So I'll just that's going to give us some kind of charts. So this would give us one chart. Sorry. This should give another chart. Alright, so once you're done with this, then let's see. Alright, so more like an outline, right? We are going to fill in the KPIs here. We're going to fill in a couple of maybe slicers here, right? And then we'll fix in some other things here. But don't worry, we're going to continue from here in our next class, and I'm going to show you. So let's align this. So if I come to align to the top, yeah, and then align to right. No, sorry, we're not aligning. So align to the left rather, not align to the top, middle. Yeah, it's okay. So I think align to, yeah. So let's align this 1, 2, 3. It's the middle. Distribute horizontally and distribute this horizontally. Now, so this. Yeah, so give it that look of not just having to be under each other, but tilted towards a particular direction. Then we can look at the size of this. So let's increase, sorry, increase this, right? Can have say 1.5. 1.5, right, and 1.5. Okay. All right, so that's good a little. So we can decide to use some colors here. Just play around with a couple of colors here, basically. Let's say there are several color codes that I know that we would love to see, but let's use which color code are we going to use here? So you can come online, for instance, and check color codes. You can say for ash, right? Let's say maybe gray. Is it gray? Yeah. Let's see. This is so this hex code is 999. This is CCC. Oh goodness. So I wish we could just get one here that would give us yeah, something like this. Yeah, so this, let's take this and come here to shape formats and come to more, where is it? More fill and come in here and paste that code. Let's see. Yeah. So I really like it to be so let's look at more. I like it to be a little lighter maybe. Let's see. Okay, now what we can do here is we're going to let's make this lighter again. Let's take this lighter, F3. Yeah, not so white, but a little this. Right, so what we're going to do here, we take this color code, so this should have the same as that. And another thing we can do here, so like outline shouldn't have an outline, this should not have an outline either, no outline. This on the other hand, well, this black would most likely change this to let's look at, say, one of these. This is even too light, so we can have, say, this maybe. Yeah, see how it sits out. Then this can have this color. Right, so if I bring this and bring this here, so come here and format this. Okay, so format this. Alright, so then this should have a deeper color. We might want to use something, so this kind of color you want, basically choose. Say if you want to use blue, if blue is your kind of color, you want to use green or any of the deep colors here, a purple, or any of the stones or shades, or if you have any one of your choice, basically. So I'll just go with this then. Let's see. Yeah, so yes, I think we can start on this. So I'll show you what to do basically. If we're going to reference all of this in these boxes. So if I come in here, for instance, I click on this and come back here, you can reference the total. So I'll do the same, right? So ideally I would have just done that and duplicated it across all of them, right? But well, since I didn't, let me just do that one after the other so you see. So just keep referencing 3 is equal to, you keep referencing again 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, then come to the there are a couple of things we'll still do, so let's just be patient. We'll still come back. There are still some calculations we're still going to carry out. So this is total calls, so 221. Yeah. Next one is percentage of the calls answered. Percentage of calls answered, and the next one here is this help point activations, and then the next again is this, right? Alright, so once that is done, we can decide to do anything basically. So I'll call this total. So this will be total, means I need to be going back and forth, right? So let me use this one. So this is total incoming calls. So total incoming calls. I'll just, take that there. I can decide to put this to the right, so that I have, maybe a space for an icon here. So make this bold. So if I don't want this, to be bold, so I don't want this. I use my shifts and arrows, and if I don't want it to be bold, right? But of course I want it to be bold. So, but then I want this other one to be bigger. Yeah. So maybe I'll just let this not be bold. Yeah. So maybe I reduce it a little. And I'll come here and set my icon. So I'll come to icons. You can find a call icon, right? So maybe a phone, someone who is answering a call, or I can search, right? If I want to, right? I can search. Just come in here and search, right? So, but if I don't want to search in there, I can just scroll until I see one that actually talks to the message I'm trying to communicate or pass across, right? So let's see for calls. Total. Use this. What I'll do, anyone I see, I'll just mark it so that I'll bring a couple of options in and select from them. So let me say call. I have here. I have telephone. Different options basically. So where are they? Right here. So I can choose anyone basically. So total incoming calls. So let me use this that speaks into. So it's more like someone is actually making a call, right? I need to adjust this. Oh, sorry. So this can come down. Okay, let it come up. So this down, maybe. Okay. Well, how does it look? I think it looks pretty okay. Just increase it a little, maybe. Yeah. Alright, so this is total incoming calls, and I can, of course, you might want to give this a type of color. So let's use this particular one we used here, right? And then this particular thing, you may give it a gradient fill. You can leave it like this if you want, whatever works for you, but I don't want to do so much. So this is basically how every other thing is going to look like. So I'm going to give you time to go and practice, and then in our next class we're going to continue from here. So I'm just going to save this, and then I'll try and work on this before the next class, but I'll also continue from here for those of us that are following. right? So thank you so much for this time, and I hope that this is worth your time, and you have learned one, from whatever we are doing here today. So I really appreciate your efforts, and if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out to us on the group or send a message, and there will be someone who would be ready to answer your queries. Thank you for your time and have a great day.